Alrighty, guys, day 2 of week number 13 in Roots. Passage for today is Joshua chapter 2. As always, I encourage you to read the whole thing, but just for the sake of time, I'm going to read just a short section out of Judges chapter 2. I can't talk today for some reason. But Judges is this book that's about sort of the time in between when Israel went into the Promised Land and when they had a king in the Promised Land. There's sort of like this history in between where you had all these tribes, and they're not necessarily super well united, even though they're all Israelites, and just a lot of bad stuff, really bad stuff happens. There's a lot of cool stories in Judges, so like it is a cool book to kind of study and just read through if you're just looking for a good book to read through. Judges is a great one, but there's this cycle in Judges where the people disobey God. God hands them over to enemies. The enemies come over, they take over and make them miserable, do horrible things to them. The people cry out to God for help. God has compassion and mercy, and so he sends a judge to come and lead them to fight back against their oppressors and bring them back into freedom. And so you have these judges that are sort of like quasi kings, like sort of kind of kings. In a way, they sort of lead in a sort of way and rescue the people out from underneath their oppressors. The problem is that as soon as they get rescued, they turn right back to doing the evil things that they were doing to begin with. And as the book goes on, even the judges themselves become really, really corrupt with time. And so let's just look at sort of in Judges chapter 2, it just sort of explains sort of what is about to happen in the rest of the book. So if we look at verse 18, it says, "Whenever the Lord raised up a judge for the Israelites, the Lord was with him and saved the people from the power of their enemies while the judge was still alive. The Lord was moved to pity whenever they groaned because of those who were oppressing and afflicting him. Whenever the judge died, the Israelites would act even more corruptly than their fathers, following other gods to serve them and bow and worship to them. They did not turn from their evil practices or from their obstinate ways." That word obstinate just has to do with being very stubborn and set in your ways, not willing to change. And that is a great word to describe a lot of us. We disobey God, we sin, we get ourselves in trouble, we cry out to God for help. God might bail us out in one way or another, and then we turn right back around and we do the same thing, if not worse than what we did to begin with. That is no way to live as a Christian, as a believer in God. We can't just turn to God only when we're in trouble and then go right back to doing the same things that we were doing to begin with. If we want true and lasting peace in our lives, the peace that God has to give us, that requires actual obedience to God, which means that we actually do the things that He teaches us to do. That implies that you and I have to repent. We have to change. We can't do the same old things and expect different stuff to happen. We have to wholeheartedly follow God when it's good and when it's bad.